A couple years ago, I had made a couple videos about how I thought the NASCAR schedule was just the perfect mix of everything. But that was a different time. That was during the Gen 6 era, and the cars now are different, and so the racing is different. And I think that while schedule talks are definitely something that NASCAR fans, I think, excel in, it's also something that's very important. And the schedule does need, maybe not overhauling, but definitely needs a revamp. And there's a couple of factors that I think should be done. Maybe not specific tracks, but just factors in general that NASCAR should look at. So let's get into it. The first one is don't overreact. And this goes to NASCAR, SMI, ISC, any stakeholder in general with it. A lot of schedule changes that NASCAR would need to make or could make is probably due to either the next gen car or at least the racing itself and outreach. But the next gen does need to improve. And because of that, I don't want to have traditionally good tracks and races maybe moved or shortened or anything like that. We should not have to get rid of Martinsville races or Bristol races because of the car alone. There might be other factors that people would argue, but I don't think that getting rid of traditional fan-favorite events is the way to go. I think fixing the car is the way to go, and we just push through a couple more bad years. The short track package has gotten a lot better thanks to Goodyear making a softer tire, and if NASCAR can improve the car, it's not going to be that much of a worry. Personally, I thought Martinsville in the fall was actually a really fun race, and it's only overshadowed by all the shenanigans at the end. The racing itself actually was pretty fun, and if that's something that continues next year and they're able to improve Bristol even more, well, then your two best short tracks are, back to your two best short tracks and not just boring. You don't have to remove them or move them to a less impactful place on the schedule. Also, don't overload on one type of track. While the short tracks and super speedways haven't been as good in recent years, the intermediates, as in the mile and a halves and cookie cutters, have been awesome. And I think that maybe adding a race or two on them would be better, but I don't think that we should have half the schedule be intermediates like that again. That's just not the way it should go. And that leads to my second point on this. Balance it out. You don't got to go overboard. The 2000s had way too many cookie-cutter tracks, and because of that, fans got sick of them. The racing, even in the Gen 4, but especially in the COT and Gen 6 on those tracks, was usually mediocre at best, with a couple of standout performances that people will remember it for. The 2010s into the 2020s, well, a lot of fans said there were too many road courses, as while there should be more than two, there probably shouldn't be 6 or 7. We've found a way to kind of balance it out, and we're sort of getting to that sweet spot now. And now a lot of people are saying you've already overloaded on super speedway races. We had 4 for the longest time, 2 at Dega and Daytona apiece, and now we got 2 more at Atlanta. No need to make a Texas or a Kansas or any of the mile and a half tracks a super speedway track. We don't need more crapshoot races. See, intermediates are the good races now, and I think that a few more might be good, but overweighing it towards them, one, is going to make it probably easier to figure out over time, but 2 is going to skew towards different drivers or specific drivers to do well. And with that too, if the racing does kind of deteriorate or the next car isn't as good on these tracks, we're going to run into the same problem we had with the road courses under the next gen car. Also, once the short tracks are fixed, they're going to need, I think, a few more races. Same with maybe one more road course. You don't need to oversaturate, and you need to just balance out the types of tracks. NASCAR is one of the most diverse schedules, and it needs to stay that way to test their drivers and teams. Third one is a big one from this past week, and that is correcting the finale. Phoenix ain't it, and Steve O'Donnell mentioned that there could be a rotation of races for the finale, but they'd have to be the right ones. And personally, I'm going to say this. I'm not opposed to this, but I would want to go strictly with Homestead again. Maybe it's my member berries kicking in, or maybe it's just because the racing is that damn good there, but I think Homestead is the right place to have the finale. It was the longest tenured track for the finale ever, and I think it was a good reason to be there. But if they do have a rotation of tracks, Homestead needs to be one, but I think you can add in a couple others. I think you don't need something chaotic, you need something in a good market, and you need something with good weather and racing. Homestead fits all of those marks perfectly in my opinion, but there's a couple other tracks I think that fit those well. And those go to Charlotte and Las Vegas on the SMI front. Both of those have some pretty solid racing and in a really good area of the country to have outreach. After all, we saw this past week how Charlotte as a culture might erase a little bit of NASCAR with the Kevin Harvick deal with the Panthers. But then there's also the ISC tracks like Homestead and my personal favorite on this, Kansas. After all, Kansas City is a winning sports culture right now. Why not have it be title town for more than just the NFL? Fourth up is something that seems probably obvious to everybody, but I think in some ways needs to be reiterated, and that is keeping the fans in mind. A lot of fans are not crazy about certain things with the schedule, and while us NASCAR fans will always complain about stuff, there are some valid concerns. Start times, for instance, are a big one. While I don't think we're ever getting the noon start times back that many of us clamor for, I do think that starting races for maybe the fans to be there at a safer time or at least a less grueling time at the races would be better. You don't want to be racing in the snow, but you also don't want to be racing at the point where the rubber on the tires is melting before you get them on the cars. I think that Sunday night races would be a good mix for a lot of people. A lot of people want to have night races back, but Saturday nights do not pull in TV viewers and generally don't change much on the attendance front. But Sunday night races are good for a couple reasons. Ratings are a big one. More people are watching TV on a Sunday night, especially in the summer. And on top of that, you can at least get away from the big amounts of heat that a lot of these tracks in the summer have. There's a reason that a Saturday night race this next year is going to be one of the races for Atlanta, because nobody wants to sit out there in 110 degrees and burn alive. But with that too, you also have to have some tracks the fans want. If fans don't want Phoenix as the finale, I don't care how much the city has gotten behind it, you need to find another city that'll get behind it with a better racetrack. Also, maybe add some practice and qualifying to the weekend as well, so that fans at the track aren't just paying for 2 or 3 events with cars on them, but there's actually multiple times a day they can see their favorite driver on track. Might not sell a ton of tickets, but if you're able to just stop running around with gimmicks and qualifying and make it something special again, you might be able to have a pretty big event for a lot of the diehards showing up early in the weekend. Lastly, you need the schedule to have a breath of fresh air. Since 2018, NASCAR has changed up the schedules in different ways to stay fresh. Whether it's the Roval from the Oval for Charlotte, whether it's adding different racetracks, whatever it might be, there's been ways to make reviewing the schedule really fun to people, even if they don't agree with the tracks or track types, like for instance with Bristol Dirt, still was something fun and worth a shot. With how track contracts are, now at least being easier to move around, there are plenty of things that you can try and do or maybe move around on the schedule. And there's plenty of new tracks that could be added on or old ones that could be added back on. Nashville Fairgrounds, for instance, still in talks with SMI about a possible date in the future. Rockingham is coming back for Xfinity and trucks. Maybe one day it comes back for the Cup Series or a race in Canada, which is long overdue for the Cup Stars. Either way, there is plenty of stuff they can do, and I think the possibilities are endless. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to you. What schedule changes would you want in any way? And what things are important to you about a NASCAR schedule? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great and fun NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support. And until next time, have a good one.